Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. So today, we're going to be breaking down the road ahead into individual parts here, kind of analyzing them for you guys, giving you more information, particularly I think taking these and looking at them as a free-to-play, if you're in the earlier stages of the game. How does this road ahead actually impact you? Because to endgame players, there's a lot of really good stuff in here, things to really get excited about. But if you're in the middle stages of the game, this road ahead is probably concerning, and honestly, I don't blame you for it. So we're going to break down this raid and why I think it could be a big struggle for a lot of players who are in that early to mid stage of the game. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you excited about this? What parts of it are you kind of like, what parts are you, very looking forward to? And let's give a huge shout out to our channel members right now for their continued support. Guys, I do apologize. I haven't been able to live stream as much lately. My wife has a very busy month of March, and so I've been trying to capitalize on some family time in the month of February. So I hope you guys can respect that, understand that. And you guys are all fantastic. Like, you guys very much understand that, my family does come first a lot of the time. So I very much appreciate every single one of you for continuing to put your faith in me. I hope the content I'm providing is not only good, but it's helping make you a better player in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes and increase your enjoyment. So with all that, let's get in here, and let's first go to kind of the speeder bike raid. And I know there are some players who don't like this raid. Particularly, I think the graphics have been a big problem. But when you think about the rewards, when you think about the scoring mechanics, and you think that it's only 3 characters at a time, the other thing to remember is that you don't actually have to take a full team of 3. You think Leia Organa herself is soloing this raid. You're using Han and Piet to score well. I use Drogon and Scout Trooper as another team. I use Iden Versio and Hera Syndulla as a duo. Jedi Knight Luke and Chewbacca as a duo. So you're not using full teams. You've been able to use a lot less characters in this raid than in previous iterations, which I think has been really good. And the other thing I think that's amazing is that the caliber of characters you're using in here. Think about that. It was Rebels, it's Imperial Troopers, and Ewoks. It's all stuff that you're going to be building for multiple different galactic legends. Like, even if you didn't go for Leia Organa, you probably still have an Imperial Trooper team. You still would have like Jedi Knight Luke and Han Solo and Chewbacca, Piet. You still would have a lot of these characters from different aspects of the game. And so I felt like that was a really, really good part, where they really hit it on the head, where they put in characters that, yes, they scale, their relic levels are definitely going to scale with the scoring, certain ones far better than others, but that it was very free-to-play accessible. I felt that the vast majority of the free-to-play player base was able to interact with this raid from day one, and that's a good thing. You're releasing new content. You should want everybody to participate with it, to interact with it. We're going to flip over here to the forum post, because I think this is where this next raid kind of starts to concern me a little bit. So let's move my fat face out of the way. Let's move it over here. So when they talk about this new raid and they say, what are some of the characters and factions that may be required? Well, while the raid is still, nothing's finalized, we're leaning towards characters found in these factions. But notice they say subsets. So subsets of characters found in these factions: Galactic Republic, Jedi, Separatists, and of course, Gungans. So it's not an all-encompassing Galactic Republic or Jedi. It's not all-encompassing Separatists, right? It's subsets of those. They're going to pick and choose which characters they are and aren't going to want you to use in this raid. So similar to the whole thing they did with the Rebels here, right? That they allowed to use certain characters, not kind of going with a more thematic thing here. But these factions are ones that I would say the vast majority of players entering the game now are not working on. There's not been a lot of reason to work on Galactic Republic, so of course we're giving them a raid. But like they're not something that we work on right away. They're not something that really leads you to anything significant like Executor. Think of bounty hunters with Executor, Hut Cartel Jabba and Jedi Master Luke and Leia. They kind of all combine together and really fit well. And this is kind of a big break from that. So right away, you're looking at some factions that are not quite as common in those earlier stages of the game. But then they say the Gungans with Jar Jar Binks will give you the best opportunity to be successful. They will be featured as a faction inside the Battle for Naboo raid, much like Jabba was for the Crate raid, and Leia for the Speeder Bike Pursuit. So the Gungan team with Jar Jar Binks is going to be the premier team in this new raid. Well, think about that for a second. That means Jar Jar and the 4 other Gungans, so 5 new characters right there, are going to be the best new team in the raid. So bare minimum, 400 Kyrotechs apiece, a crazy amount of Zetas coming. I cannot say that I think this is a good move by the dev team. At least from a standpoint of the best team in the raid is one that's going to be inaccessible to a lot of players. That, like, how many people are going to feel like they can really make a strong push for Jar Jar in that time? I could be wrong, but I feel like when it was a Galactic Legend, you could make that argument that a lot of players would make that push for them because it made sense. I don't know. Like, it depends how good Jar Jar and those Gungans are outside of the raid. Like, do people just kind of skip this raid for a few months? So I'm definitely concerned about that, right? That's a big part of me that's very concerning, is that you think they said that they're planning to release this raid around summertime. So you think as of the time here, it is February the 17th. So summertime could mean as soon as June, but realistically probably looking at that July to August time frame. So anywhere from 5 to 7 months away, you think that this would end up being in the game. So are we going to be able to get 5 new characters in 5 months, gear those characters, farm those characters? Like, that's not very likely for anybody who's not spending some serious coin on this game. And that's concerning to me, right? I can't say it's not. Like, that to me is a very quick turnaround to release an entire faction that's going to be required to be farmed, geared, Zetaed, all that kind of stuff. So very nervous about that just from the Gungan perspective. But then they mentioned Separatists, right? So let's flip back over to the game here. And let's move the fat face back over to the normal spot. All right. So let's go to the Separatist faction here. So certain characters that I think could potentially be, used in this raid. I mean, of course, the Stap. Like, we had to know this one was coming, right? Like, we knew it was coming. So definitely think the Stap is going to be used. I would suspect the B1 Battle Droid, Newt Gunray, and Droidica would definitely be solid shoo-ins to be used in this raid. But honestly, I think Trench too. Not because he's thematic, but because, like, they need to capitalize on this guy. They need to get people who geared him, give them a reason to use him. So I feel like Trench could be a really solid shout. But at least the Stap. And if you're not keeping track, that's now the 6th new character you're going to need for this raid. The 5 Gungans and the Stap now makes it 6 new characters in 2024 already for this raid. So again, I'm speculating on the Stap, but I feel like that's a shoo-in. Like, I feel like we knew this thing was going to be needed for something. So just another example where I feel like it's pushing the game more towards, hey, this raid is going to be food for whales, where I felt the Speeder Bike raid was a lot more geared towards the vast part of the player base to say, hey, everybody, we want you to do decently well in this raid. I just don't know that that same thought process is being applied to this current raid. The only way I'll say that I'd be more or less okay with this new raid is if there's a wide array of Galactic Republic characters that we're going to be able to use in this raid. And that would be Galactic Republic Jedi. Obviously, Jedi Master Kenobi not going to be one of those characters. Or like Jedi Knight Anakin, right? Like, it's going to have to be some of those Jedi Council members that we'll get to use. So, just trying to prepare you guys for that. But, yeah. So, there's the Stap, right? So, that's another one that we're going to have to use in this new raid. And I think that's a very good shoo-in. So, again, now we're at, 6 new characters between the 4 new Gungans and Jar Jar, and then the Stap. Well, we're not quite done yet, because they also mentioned that we're going to get Queen Amidala, and 2 other new Galactic Republic characters. Right? So here we go. Queen Amidala, as well as 2 characters for the Galactic Republic faction. They will be, iconic, right, and all that stuff. And I would say that it's going to be very much, I'm trying to see if they actually straight up mention it or not. But you can assume that she's also going to be a big part of this raid, because why would you, you can't have a Naboo raid and have Queen Amidala in the game and not include her. So now you've got Queen Amidala makes 7, and then 2 other new Galactic Republic characters. You're up to 9 new characters needed for this raid. 9 new characters is a lot. And I just feel that we're not prepared for that in the game right now. I don't think the game is ready for that, the sheer amount of work that's going to require. And again, I think that's concerning, because Queen Amidala is a conquest character is on top of that. So that's why I think that 5 to 7 month range makes a lot of sense to me. That I was talking with a buddy of mine, and he was saying, he's like, my guild thinks it'll be 5 months, where we're going to get it in July. They'll finish Bane. They'll have the 3 conquests of Queen Amidala, and then boom, the raid will be here kind of thing. I was more along the lines thinking that it would be, finish the Bane conquests, and then maybe 6 new iterations of conquest, where Queen Amidala is the primary reward, the secondary reward, then we get the new raid. I'm not sure, but you can assume that the raid won't happen until she's at least been the conquest character, because she's obviously going to be utilized in it. But again, I don't think that's good. I feel like that's a big problem of needing, if it was just, hey, we're releasing Gungans and they're going to be a big part of this raid. Okay, fine. But you're releasing all these other new characters that are going to probably play major parts to this raid. And I can't see this being a smashing success for players in the lower stages of the game. Because even if you're like, oh, well, what about Galactic Republic Jedi, Phil? We have a lot of them, if we switch back over to the game here. Right? Got to move the fat face, of course. But let's go to, Galactic Republic Jedi. Oh, yeah, Phil, well, what about them? Well, how many of you would have, okay, Grandmaster Yoda, fine, Mace Windu, but, how many of you would have all these Jedi without having farmed Jedi Master Kenobi yet? Are we, that's again, Keller and Beck probably going to be used in this raid for all we know. It really does feel that they're pushing characters that I don't want to say the vast, but that a lot of players might not have right now. And I feel like the game was doing a really good job of kind of progressing you along that, hey, we had Jabba in the crate raid, and then we had speeder bike raid with Leia Organa, and there was some crossover there between certain requirements kind of bleeding over. And I feel like this new raid is just kind of completely wiping the slate clean and starting from scratch. And that's not a bad thing, but there was no kind of progression towards it. There wasn't oh, hey, the next thing is going to require, Jedi characters, and Jedi Master Kenobi is going to be one of them. I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping the gun too soon, but I really, the more I thought about this, I kind of got nervous for a lot of the free-to-play player base, because I think this raid is going to be very hard to interact with, and I think a lot of guilds will probably, and I'd say my own would definitely fall into this category, where our reward box is going to take a hit the first couple of raids. Probably for a while even. Because without Jar Jar, without some of those new characters, I think it will be very hard to score well in this new raid. So, that's the end of the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Again, like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I will see you all in the next video. Cheers, my friends.